Greetings, my friends. Welcome to the next episode of the Mint Mob Podcast. Jason here, joined by my buddy Alex across the pond in Germany. We're going to jump into all the usual stuff, and Alex has some surprise topics for us today. So we'll see what those are going to be. How's it going, buddy? How are you?
Hey man, I'm good. Yeah, great to be here again. Christmas time is coming, and I don't know if it's similar in the United States, but people always go crazy shortly before holidays. We have that unique situation in Germany that stores are closed when, on Sundays and on holidays, which means we have 2 or 3 consecutive days of closed stores. People are not able to get groceries. And that means they have to prepare as if apocalypse is coming. So, yeah, that's what's happening today. I was like in a store today after work quickly, and it was crazy. Like people go crazy. Like you guys are definitely in a better position, right? Like you can get groceries anytime.
Yeah, we can, but you know what? I like it when we couldn't. It didn't used to be that way. When I was a little kid, all the stores were closed on Sundays and everything was closed on the holidays, but that's all changed.
But it's good. I'd love to have open. I get that. Obviously people need to rest and all that stuff. But I mean, people get work, right? Like they are not forced to work on Sundays, are they?
No, they're not forced to usually. And then, of course, if they do, there's always double pay or triple pay, depending on who you're working for, at least time and a half. So, I mean,
Mhm.
it's not the end of the world. And some people do enjoy working those times because they double up on their income. But yeah, I mean, it was just nice because it was quiet and there wasn't so many distractions. But then again, of course, when you spend, a few hours with family, it's like, okay, I've had enough. I've had enough of the family time, right? So let's go do something fun, and then everything would be closed. So it's different now.
It's actually always funny when I see, like, right now I'm obviously looking at you. We have like a face cam call again, and I see that bright window behind you. Everything is bright and shiny, and it's like I can't get how you get into Christmas mood.
It's very hard this year. We have basically had the most perfect weather that you could possibly imagine, but the worst weather for Christmas because there's been no cloudy days, no cold days. And so it doesn't always feel like Christmas when you have 70-degree sunny days. But then again, the flip side is the weather's just beautiful. So, you take the good with the bad and, you don't always get it your way. But yeah, Christmas in the desert is very different from, Christmas growing up in Georgia, for example, where it was always cold or gray or something. So very different times for sure. Do you guys have snow?
Not right now. They're always like they try to predict whether we will have white Christmas or not. Looks like not too good this time, but for some reason it gets colder in January and February here. So December is still not too cold. But yeah, I get that. I think the west side of the United States, like California, doesn't have any snow as well, right?
They will in the mountains, like we'll have snow in the mountains. We had a huge dump here in the mountains. I'm sure California in the Sierras and up north are going to get weather as well. I mean, you have to realize as big as California is, I mean, 800 miles of coastline? It's bigger than most European nations. So, in the northern part of California, it's very different from the southern part. And Arizona,
Hmm.
same thing, like the northern part of Arizona where the elevation is 8,000 feet versus where we are in Phoenix, the elevation's like 1,400 feet, 1,500 feet. So the temperature changes, and of course they get a lot more snow. But it's not always predictable. It's very irregular. Being in the desert, you don't always get that much precipitation. But we do have 2 ski slopes here in Arizona, one up north and one out east.
Do you like snow? Do you like when it's cold outside, snow everywhere, and like such a winter wonderland? Or is it like you prefer? Obviously, like snow is cool as long as it's there, right? As soon as it gets like a little hotter, everything turns into like that's not too cool, right?
That was very profound. You said snow is cool. Yeah, man, snow is
Yeah.
cold, man. Yeah, yeah. And my wife is Canadian. She's working on. I think she's in the final throes of getting her U.S. citizenship. But for the first part of our relationship, I spent basically 3 to 6 months out of every year in Canada, and so it was always over the holidays. And honestly, shoveling a foot of snow every day is not a lot of fun. So here in Arizona, the catchphrase is always, well, you can't shovel sunshine, buddy. You can't shovel sunshine. Just enjoy it. But it is nice to have snow when it first falls because it blankets everything and it makes everything feel new and fresh, especially around Christmas time. It's just like later on that day or the following day when all the cars have driven through it and the people have trudged through it and it's all sloppy and nasty that it's not really that much fun. Or when the snow drifts are 4 feet tall on either side of the road, it's not that much fun. But yeah, when it first falls, if you're in an area where you can enjoy that fresh snowfall, I love it. It's just absolutely beautiful.
I mean, it's almost as good as I mean, I enjoy rain as well. Like I feel like when it's rainy outside, even like little lightning, like it's pretty cool, isn't it?
Yeah, especially in the desert. I have a couple dirt bikes, and the best time to take the dirt bikes out is right after a rainstorm because the ground is a little more tacky and there's no dust. So you can go hauling ass through the desert on a motorcycle, and the tires will actually stick instead of sliding through the turns. And then there's no dust, and so you can just go out and go miles and miles out away from people. It's super quiet and beautiful out. And yeah, it's something that I think a lot of people take for granted. Of course, where things are plentiful, people take them for granted. But out here, where rain is scarce, it's really a beautiful thing. And then you can go out into the desert. A couple days after rain, all the wildflowers will bloom all at the same time. You'll get these massive blooms of like purples and yellows. The mountains will be covered. The desert floor will be covered. Everything will turn green, you know? And it's just such a nice departure because, so much of the year is hot and dry and everything's kind of brown and drab. So yeah, it's really beautiful and I love it here in the desert. When I lived in Georgia and it would rain, for days on end, that's a little bit different, not the same thing. Or if you're in the Northwest where it rains days on end, it's not quite the same thing.
It's funny that you mentioned it. I mean, first of all, by the way, you do a great job of promoting the desert, by the way. But like I feel like when I told you already, I'm watching Stranger Things currently, so I know how Georgia looks like. At least I think it's set in Atlanta, right? Or it's like shot in Atlanta. Is that correct?
Yeah, just
The
outside of
whole show.
Atlanta. Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like that area kind of looks like yeah, it's kind of comparable to a European city, like from the complexes and all that. But I feel like I would never move there. Did you ever think about going back?
Yeah, for sure. At some point when we, have the opportunity to, I want to get a house back in my home state and then get a house, preferably on a lake. 'Cause I grew up when I was a little kid. I have a lot of nostalgia from lakes, and spending time with my grandparents out on the water. And so it'd be wonderful to get a place on the lake, even just like a small cabin or something, and spend 3 months, 4 months out of the year there, and then maybe VRBO it when we weren't there or something like that. Yeah, so absolutely love. I love that area. I miss the trees. I miss the water. The desert is beautiful. Everything, depending on where you are, everything has its own flavor or type of beauty. The desert's beauty is very subtle. The beauty that you get in the South is very different, and it does feel a little more European because the cities are more on top of each other. There's a lot more population
Mhm.
density. And so when you have a piece of land that's wooded or that's on a lake, and you have the opportunity to explore that and kind of have your own space, to me, the woods and the water and the space are what make the South beautiful. And to get those areas, you want to generally be away from population centers. They're generally more rural. And so that's kind of what I would look for. I wouldn't want to live in a city in the South or anything like that.
One thing I would do is basically when I went there is like you can actually visit like the sets and where all these shows were shot, and that's pretty cool. Like I saw that you can I think you've seen some of these seasons as well. You could even like visit the Hawkins School and all that stuff. And I think you mentioned that the streets where they drive with their bikes are basically where you grew up. This is pretty cool. And even like what else? Like that big shopping mall is actually a mall in Georgia, I think, and that was kind of abandoned or something, or not used anymore, and they put all the stores in there and basically to destroy it again. I'm not sure if that was CGI or not, but in the end they did pretty cool stuff, and you can still visit it today. Like, it's so different to, like I said, when I always say like I said, even though I haven't said it yet, but um, um, when I went to California and Los Angeles, and I visited Paramount Studios, Warner Brothers Studios, and you saw all that fake stuff. It's actually pretty cool to see that there are shows out there filming on actual settings, and that's pretty cool. I'm not sure if that's a unique thing or if that's pretty common, but that was definitely very cool. Do you have any big shows filmed in Phoenix?
There's quite a bit that's been filmed here over the years. I couldn't give you a list. I know like Bad Santa was filmed here. There was a Will Ferrell movie filmed here. I forget what it was called, but yeah, Phoenix has quite a few shows and movies that have been filmed here. And actually, there's a little underground movie community where people are doing like local independent films and stuff like that. I actually met with a couple guys just this past week who were writing scripts and trying to put together little movies and stuff. So I mean, there's definitely a scene. I'm not super plugged into it, but yeah, there's definitely a scene.
I think many of the big blockbuster movies are even filmed in Canada, right? Like, for some reason, you have like Little New York in Canada. I think I saw a movie set from the new Spider-Man somewhere, where you could basically see the set. The street was blocked, and you could watch from outside, them filming Spider-Man. And I'm not sure if that was possible here. That's so crazy that they can, block whole streets, and they can just film in there, do explosions and all that stuff. Have you ever seen that somewhere?
I haven't seen it personally, but I mean, now that you mentioned blockbusters, they filmed a lot of the Transformers movies here as well. So, they would have had massive sets going on. And of course, most of the time that stuff is closed off to the public. So, you can't really get in and around there, especially if they're doing like pyrotechnics and explosions and stuff like that. But yeah, there's been a ton of stuff come through here. I've never personally gone to it or witnessed it. That's just never been something that I've been interested in. But yeah, it definitely has a presence here. Is there? Can you think of anything? Are there any like big movies that have been filmed out in your area?
Let me think. I think the last Matrix movie was filmed in Berlin, partly at least. There most of the times it's like movies. Either it's like Nazi Germany movies that are filmed somewhere here, or it's like some U.S. American movies, and part of them play in like European cities, like Berlin or close cities. But I'd love to, like you said, you're not interested in such things. But for example, when I watched the Stranger Things season with the mall, I would love to walk through it. I would love to go in there. I would love to see, you have that Burger King, and walk in there and just see, is there actually anything in there, or is everything empty and, just stage and all that stuff. I would love to do that. For some reason, like, I always wanted to, like, one of my favorite sitcoms back then. I don't know if you're familiar with King of Queens, but I loved watching that back then. And I always wanted to attend like when they shot it and stuff, and I always wanted to walk through the rooms they have and see if there's anything in the shelf or not. For some reason that kind of interests me, and it's exciting. But I totally understand if you feel like I'm not sure if that's like a European thing, because we are not as close as you are to the film industry. But yeah, I would guess that there are U.S. Americans excited about that as well.
Yeah, for sure. There's definitely a lot of filming in Canada. From what I understand, just the sheer costs have been just insanely off the charts in recent years, and so a lot of production studios have gone to other areas outside of California, whether it was other states or other countries. And Canada is really close by, of course, and in the summertime the weather's really mild, so they can film up there pretty well. Same thing in a lot of the southern states. But yeah, I mean, California has done a really good job of running off business. So, and that does include the film industry to a large degree, from what I understand. So yeah, I mean, I can't imagine why they would stay there when they don't have to and there's other options. But yeah, the amount of shows and of course the sitcoms that you mentioned, a lot of those are just filmed in sound stages and permanently affixed sets. Like everything that's meant to look outside is actually inside. And then all of the Star Wars stuff that they've been doing through Disney has been actually recorded inside a building that has a game engine that actually runs on the walls. So all of those big wide shots where the characters are like looking off into the sunset, or across, some crazy landscape or battlefield, that's all game engine projected on a wall, and they've found a way to film it. So most of that type of stuff, I think in California, soundstage work, of course, the Disney work, all of that stuff is happening locally. But the big, broad, outdoor type stuff I can't even imagine where you would even film that in California. Southern California is just like one massive collection of people on top of people on top of people. So maybe some of the rural areas in Central Valley, Cali, but I mean, everything else is going to have to go somewhere else, I would think.
Yeah, even though when I was in LA, I was pretty close to the Paramount studio, and I remember one day walking out, and there was like a little note on my front door, and it said like filming is going on, do not park on the street. And I was like, okay, interesting. And I think it was for a show called The Rookie, and yeah, they were basically filming inside the streets or in a bar or something like that. And the whole camera teams had to come up as well, and you needed some space. And yeah, that's, I mean, it's interesting if you're not familiar with that, right? Obviously we have movies shot here in Europe as well, or in Germany, and especially Netflix is actually doing a pretty good job to produce foreign movie shows or TV shows. And that was like the first time I watched a show produced in Germany that had that kind of look, American look. Earlier when you had like shows produced here, you could always see from the look that it was shot here in Germany and produced here. So Netflix is doing a pretty good job to turn everything international.
Yeah, for sure. The really cool thing about the streaming services is you can get shows from anywhere in the world now, for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
And, if you're a German show, for example, or there was a show on Netflix that I liked that was out of the Netherlands, so the language was all in Dutch. And there's some really great shows that are shot in more of like a Hollywood film style that feels more familiar. But the thing is, like when you're watching it in a foreign language, you can really tell if the acting is shit. So if you don't understand the language and you're watching the actors play and you're trying to figure out what's being said just from the body language or from the facial expressions, you're like, oh, these actors fucking suck, or these actors are really, really good, And then if you flip to the dubbed over language, and it still works, that they did a really good job. So some of the shows that my wife and I watched were actually really, really good. And the actors were fantastic actors. I don't feel like the quality was any different there than it would have been here. It's just that the language barrier, kind of highlights that, it highlights the fact that these actors are doing a great job or these actors aren't so good, And so the lighting and of course the score and the music and everything else comes together to tell the story. It's not just the actors, but if the actors are bad in a different language, it really jumps out.
You need to tell me how the show was called. I'll definitely check it out.
The show is called Rita or Wita.
Rita.
And,
Rita.
Rita. That was just the name of the main character. And it was all in Dutch with English subtitles. So I watched the whole series in Dutch. And there was another Dutch show that was kind of, like what's the word? Like a crime type show, like a private investigator type show. Was really good. Again, another one that we watched in subtitles that was all in Dutch. And yeah, so I mean, there's been a lot of shows that we've picked up from Europe. Lots of stuff coming out of the UK, of course, because it's English, and then, of course, Australia. And I feel like AMC, American Movie Classics, AMC Plus has done a really good job of pulling shows in from all across the world. And Sundance has done a really great job as well. Sundance has probably some of the best players in terms of actors that you'll ever see in shows, and they're all set in different areas, different parts of the world. So especially some of the Australian stuff, like the crazy deserts and, like these really vacant sort of arid landscapes and areas in these tiny little towns with, like two trailers and a gas station or something. It just feels so out there, so different, so lonely that it just draws you in. You just want to just follow the story and see what the hell why is someone living in the middle of the outback with like one grocery store 500 miles from anywhere, or how are they growing cows in the middle of the desert? It's crazy. So all these different cultures you get exposed to and you never have to leave your living room. It's really kind of cool.
Absolutely. Just taking a note here for Rita. I have to check it out. It's funny. Netherlands is like 1 hour away from me, and I've never heard of it. Let's see, Rita. Do you have any idea of? I mean, obviously you've watched the Dutch show now, but did you have any idea how Netherlands looked like? Did you have what do you think of when you think about Netherlands?
I think of Charlie. He's the only Dutch person I know. I mean, I think of like the North Sea. I think of old school Vikings, and I think of how far they've fallen from being Vikings to who they are today. And I think of Wim Hof, and I think of shipping and oil and that sort of thing. That's the kind of things that come to mind for me when I think of the Netherlands. Yeah, for sure.
Crazy, man. It's always interesting too, because obviously it's a pretty small country, and I love to hear what people from the United States think about it. Do you have any impression of Latvia, for example?
No, none whatsoever. I couldn't find Latvia on a map. Probably I'd have to Google it. Like, where the fuck is Latvia?
Latvia, it's like the Baltic states. Yeah.
Okay, the Baltic states. Yeah.
Such a small state actually, and they're like sometimes they're like not surveys, but when I check like reels on Instagram or somewhere, it's like when people are making like some sort of interviews and asking Americans about European countries and what they know about it. It doesn't seem like US Americans are very much like educated, but it's actually interesting to see, right? Like if they can't even tell where France or Germany is on a map, that's interesting.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, most Americans are so isolated from the rest of the world, and this is a privilege that is not necessarily a privilege when it comes to knowledge, because when you live in a country that is wealthy and you live in a country that basically has so many different things that you have access to, so much ease and so much convenience, you never really think about other countries or even visiting other countries because you feel like you've got everything you need and then some, right? You don't really want
to. But if you do, it's always France or Paris, Paris or Italy, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, and you can blame TV and film for that, right? Like, because Paris is supposed to be so romantic, right? Like, we have to go to Paris. Never mind the stabbings. You just go to Paris, right? Same thing with London. London's a huge financial center. Never mind the stabbings. Just, we'll just go to London or whatever. But yeah, like this is one of the reasons that when we went to Italy, for example, I didn't really want to do the touristy stuff. I wanted to see how people lived. So when we flew into Milan and we rented a car, we went into Switzerland, we went to Lugano, and then we drove all the way south. We literally drove the whole country. And so you could see how people lived in different parts of the country. And I mean, the truth is, everywhere I've been, whether it was Mexico or Italy or Switzerland or, anywhere in the States, I've been to 49 of the 50 states. I've not been to Alaska yet. Everybody is the same internally. And how they express it, shows up in how they live. We were talking off mic, everybody loves to get together with friends or family. Everybody loves to have a meal. Everybody loves to, have a hobby, whether it's getting out or whether it's shopping or whether it's hiking or whatever. Like, everybody is the same. We're all humans. We're all, on this rock doing our best to live our lives. But how it manifests itself is different depending on your geography. And so really you're just learning about like why people are the way they are. And a lot of it comes down to, well, this is because this is where they live, In southern Italy, when we were there visiting my in-laws, they live on the side of a mountain, So, they're not farming massive acreages on the side of a mountain. There's just no space, but other parts of Italy are meant for that, So if you go to Tuscany or wherever you have a flatter area, they'll be growing grapes or produce or whatever the case may be. But olive trees can grow there, like in that particular area, they grow a lot of olive trees. But farmland is hard to come by. And so it's a different lifestyle, and it's out away from everything. The nearest store is 20 minutes away, And so the communities stay really tight, and there's one pizza shop in the little community there, and that's the whole life. You come home, you eat with family, maybe you go to the pizza shop, maybe you hit the coffee shop, and then you go home and you watch TV, and you get up and you do whatever you do for work the next day, and that's the whole life, But because you're not near anything.
Did you meet anyone in Italy outside your family who you could talk to actually, like in English?
Not really. And again, they're so isolated down there. Why would they worry about learning to speak English? I mean, they spoke a little broken English here and there, but for the most part, it was me speaking broken Italian. Because I could barely speak anything in Italian, but I could just like mumble a couple of words, and I think they appreciate the fact that I was trying, but of course I couldn't understand anything really. And my wife speaks Italian. Maybe not fluently, but close to fluently, so she could at least understand and kind of translate for me. So communication wasn't a big deal. And, when you're just hanging out, having food or laughing with someone, it doesn't really matter. You're just kind of in the moment. It's all good.
What I would have liked to know is if you actually spoke to someone to see if you felt like there was a difference in mentality. Because if to give you an example, like when I went to the States and I was in a grocery store, I was actually asking a woman for razor blades, and she like got in a conversation with me, and suddenly she started talking about politics, and she was all about hating Trump and all that stuff, and suddenly like the guy from the corner was getting into the conversation, and they kept talking. That would never happen in a grocery store in Germany, that someone has like a personal conversation with you. And that's why I was interested to see whether you felt like the mentality was different in Italy, like when you had a conversation with people or not.
Yeah, I mean, everything was different. I mean, from the culture of sort of, let me rephrase it. So the culture, inside the home and the culture outside the home are two different things. Inside the home, it's always the same. You have a family dynamic, and everybody has a place in the family, and they show up and they do whatever they're supposed to do. If you're the kid, you're the kid. If you're the parent, you're the parent, whatever. But outside of that, it's very different. If we go to a coffee shop or what have you, and, you see a lot of locals hanging out, and my wife, she would do the ordering because she spoke Italian, so she would order for us. And then, we're always accustomed to tipping or whatever, and that's not customary in Italy, for example. And so anytime, we would tip at this coffee shop, they would ring a bell and like clap and celebrate. And I was like, are they making fun of us, or are they happy they got a tip? I'm not really sure. And no one really communicated, hey, this is what's happening here. Like, this is what we do here. Let's have a conversation about tipping, because it's not something that you customarily do in Italy, right? So these types of things and like language around politics or language around important like world events, I wasn't on any level to communicate with other people. So for me, I was just completely iced out, right? But I could tell that there were people, in and around having those conversations over a newspaper, or, you could see they were going back and forth passionately about a particular topic, and it wasn't what their favorite color was, So obviously they were having those conversations. But with me as a foreigner, not being able to speak the language, I couldn't really plug into that, so it was just lost on me. And my wife isn't interested in those things, so she wasn't really paying attention either. So,
does your wife speak Italian?
Yeah, she speaks Italian. It's not perfect. She's not perfectly fluent, but she's fluent enough to communicate.
Okay. Yeah, interesting. Okay, let's maybe try at least a little bit to transition into some crypto
That was a
topic
good
now.
attempt, by the way. I knew what you were trying to go for there. So we've been like 30 minutes on movies and TV shows here.
Yeah. I told you that I've been on Space. I was attending a Space. That was for like, I just came across it on Saturday, and it was called Spill and Chill. It actually had many listeners. It had like 600 listeners. And I jumped in there, and there was an American host, Yaki Duck or something like that. And it was interesting because that guy was American, and the whole idea of the space was basically to let people shield their projects. So they basically let everyone request the mic and speak about their projects. And it was funny because that host was so hyped about anything that was, spilled or chilled or whatever. And it was interesting because like there were people coming up speaking from, I don't know, Nigeria or whatever, like not speaking really fluently, and they were like, yeah, I just dropped that coin and you should all buy that coin and blah blah blah. And that host after that was like, dude, I love what you do, it's so good. I like, leave a follow for that guy, like follow him all, I need you to follow, and he's so great and blah blah blah. And all that felt so staged and not genuine that I was like, I don't want to speak here, like that's like a shit show. And that's interesting because in the very beginning of the podcast and of Spaces and all that stuff, you always said that we need to be very energized when we speak, right? Like when we start podcasts, when we start Spaces. Mm-hmm. And we always had that conversation about marketing and how I would approach it, how you think is right, like to basically acknowledge everyone. That's what we do, of course, but I never wanted to make it look like it's like it's staged or not genuine, and I think that's like where was like some sort of disconnect. And when I listened to that space, I felt like, is that maybe like a cultural thing? Like, are US Americans more like that, and try to convey a message of I'm so hyped, I'm so energized, I'm so convinced of anything that's being said here on Space. What's your opinion on that?
It's both. There are many different ways to get a message out, but there's almost no benefit to being boring and dull when you're communicating any message.
True, yeah.
Right? So if I came to you and I was like, hey man, I've got this really cool NFT project, bro. You should probably take a look at it, man. Yeah, it's cool, Or if I came to you and I'm like, hey dude, I just came across this incredible NFT project and it is amazing. These guys are doing awesome stuff in the world and I really think you should take a look. Which one of those two messages is more appealing, right?
I like the first one, actually. No, yeah. I get that, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, there's no benefit to being, to sounding down or depressed about what you're doing. There's no benefit at all. So, unless you're talking to a room full of stoners, you're not going to get very far. And at the end of the day, there's a limit, of course, to what's real and what's complete bullshit. And if someone is just hype about everything, then they're basically being disingenuous because there's not a single soul on the planet that likes everything. And if people are just popping up out of the audience and spouting off whatever they're spouting off and you've never even looked at it and you're like, oh, that's amazing, man. I mean, you sound like a clown, So, I mean, the best marketing is genuine. The best marketing is truthful. And so if you're genuinely excited about what it is that you're doing, and you should be if you're doing it, otherwise you need to stop doing it, then, that's contagious. And if you're genuinely not excited about what you're doing and you're trying to get other people excited about it, that almost never works. So the thing is, there's a sweet spot, and I think a lot of people either overshoot it or don't understand the power of it. And so today, in a world where everything is so noisy and there's a screen in front of everyone's face all the time, and this person's shouting at you to do this, and this person's trying to sell you on that, the only way you're going to have any penetration from an organic standpoint is to get message continually into the marketplace. And the only way you do that outside of buying ads is you continually post. Right? So you can continually post, or you can buy ads, which will continually post for you. And the messaging needs to be true and factual, but it also needs to be of benefit to the listener. And it also needs to be somewhat upbeat, and it needs to convey that, hey, I actually care about what I'm doing. And that shows up in your energy level. So yeah, there's a limit between the clowns and the stooges out there and the depressed, pot smokers out there. And the happy medium is wherever your audience is, whatever your audience is, whoever your audience is, and whatever it is they need to hear, that's where you need to show up and how you need to show up.
Yeah, I get that, but I still feel like, that kind of overhyped, staged, quote unquote, staged, drive people have. For example, like if you are a cool guy, if you're laid back a little bit and speak calm, I think that can convey a pretty good impression as well. And you can, you can tell people something and be convincing still, even though you're not fully energized and maybe you have like a different attitude. Don't you think that works, or do you feel like there is only that one way?
It depends on who you're talking to. If you are a if you're coming across as Johnny Cool, Mr. Leather Jacket guy, I mean, you really have to know that everybody in the room sees you as that.
Mm-hmm.
If everyone in the room sees you as this alpha male cool guy sitting in the corner holding up the wall waiting for all the chicks to come find him, then yeah, I mean, people are going to hear you. They're going to listen to what you have to say, but they're only going to listen to what you have to say to the extent that they feel like you have something that they want. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So this is why, like, if I were doing like pickup artist content, I'd have my best suit on, and I would go stand in front of my rented Lamborghini, and I would shoot a video in front of my rented Lamborghini about how you should pick up chicks, and I would do so in a very cool, suave, sort of deepened voice way where I'm really confident in what I'm projecting, because that's what my audience needs to hear,
Do you even own a suit? I could never imagine you in a suit.
There's probably one in my closet somewhere. I got married in a suit, so there's one somewhere.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, that's
Yeah.
not who I am. So I'm not 3-piece suit guy. That's not who I am. But if I'm selling something like, when we were gym owners for the 7 years that we were the gym owners, when people would come in and I would sell them on a program, I wasn't going to be like, hey, good to see you. Glad you came in today. I'm like, hey, welcome in. How are you? How can I serve you? What is it that you're looking for? And they're like, oh, well, I want to do this, this, and this. Okay, cool. Here's what we can do for you. We have this program and this program. Does that sound good? Does that sound like something you'd like to learn more about? Yeah, tell me about this one. Okay, cool. Let's sit down. I'm leading, and there's a confidence in what I'm doing because I'm not hesitating between steps. I'm saying, here's what we're doing. I'm going to show you this. I'm going to tell you about that. And I'm asking permission the whole way. Is this something you want to learn more about? Can I tell you about this? And I'm stair stepping through this ladder of events that gets to a sale, right? And this is necessary because a lot of times what people are buying is they're buying your confidence. They're not buying your product. So if your family owns a car dealership, I'm sure in your town, there's probably 100 car dealerships. Why should I buy from you instead of the guy down the street? Right? Well, what is it that you're doing differently? What is your personality like? Do you care about me as a client? Are you going to serve me in a better way than the guy down the street? I have to be able to convey that in a confident manner. If the guy comes in and there's a guy down the street that he was talking to, and he's like, well, he's got the same car and it's $500 less. And he comes to talk to you and you're like, I understand that. But listen, we're going to stand behind the vehicle. We're going to give you an extended warranty. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And, when you call and you need service, we're going to be here for you. We're not just going to leave you high and dry. That might be worth the extra $500 to that guy. I'd rather pay $500 and make sure that I know that the dealer I'm dealing with is reputable and is going to stand behind that product. So the only way that gets conveyed is with energy and confidence. And you can have confidence without the energy. But again, people have to already see you as the authority figure. When you're in the space and you're trying to attract attention, standing in the corner in your leather jacket is not going to get it done.
How important is your actual look? Because imagine if you were on Spaces. I mean, you obviously are all the time. We got the podcast. We haven't gone live yet, video live. Um, if you, if you, if we showed up in a video podcast for the very first time now, and people I mean, people have seen you already on X, of obviously, but if they didn't, and you suddenly sat there in a suit with a cigar and you spoke the same way you do you think there was some sort of disconnect, or do you feel like obviously people have an imagination of how you look like when you speak, right?
Sure.
So, do you think the look matters in the end?
It does matter. Everything matters when you're communicating because it's not just a verbal thing. It's your body language, it's your facial expression, it's your inflection. You know, it's everything that you do. And I am just getting to the point where I feel like I'm almost competent in terms of speaking. Every time we do a space and we're talking live, I listen back to the space and I'm constantly keying on what I think I did wrong. On the last space, for example, I listened back. There was this one moment where I just rambled for like 5 minutes and you guys just let me ramble. And I was trying to make a point, like a really important point about making a change going into the new year. And I did a really shitty job of making the point. I never got to the point. It's almost like I forgot what I was going to say. And then I kept saying, I have this vocal faux pas that I keep doing where I say, at the end of the day, at the end of the day, at the end of the day. Like every time we have a conversation, I say that way too much. So I'm constantly critiquing myself and I'm doing my best to better that without the ums and the ahs and the speaking into the microphone with breath and all this kind of stuff. Like all of these different things are skills that you have to learn. And of course, when you are at the level that I'm at, I'm going to make a ton of mistakes and I'm going to look foolish a lot of times. And I just have to be willing to look like a fool. But I'm not going to show up out of integrity, which is what you're talking about. If I am the type of person who goes through my day and I'm in suits and ties, or, I'm dressed to the nines, or I'm basically showing off from a material standpoint my status, then I would show up that way on a video podcast as well. But that's not who I am. So I'm going to show up in basically like workout gear because this is kind of how I go through my day. Now, if I have a meeting with a client or if I'm going to an event, obviously I'm going to dress up and I'm going to look the part and I'm going to try to make as many connections as I can, doing a different thing. But the beauty of the internet is I don't have to do that if I am located at my house. So my commute is from my bedroom to my office, not from my bedroom to the shower, to the closet to put on the suit, to the car, to the job. That's not what I do. So I wouldn't present myself as such. And I think that the more and the faster we can get to who we are, the better we're going to be, better off we're going to be in life. So my whole goal is to just be in integrity with what I'm doing and saying. And when I tell you that I believe in the project, Goodfellows, you can trust that. If I'm talking to you as an artist and an artist is asking me for feedback and I'm honest with them, they can trust that because I've demonstrated that I'm not just here to blow smoke up your ass and tell you everything's perfect. Those are the type of people that you cannot trust, because you have to realize marketing is a lot like the yes man. We all know someone who anything you say to them, they're like, yeah, oh yeah, for sure, yeah. And you can never really get a fix on what they're actually thinking because they're just constantly telling you what they think you want to hear. They're marketing to everyone that I'm your best friend. I'm everyone's best friend. Marketing is the same way. Like marketing to everyone is marketing to no one. So just like in the real world, if I walked into a room full of people and I was obviously drawn to some people, but not drawn to others, but I treated everyone as if they were the best thing in the world and that everything that they said was just so super key and it was impacting my life. And I'm just la, 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 la. Oh yeah, I agree. And then I go over here and someone else has a different opinion. I'm like, oh yeah, I agree. I'm basically just telling these people I can't be trusted, that I have no moral compass, that I have no value system. And they pick up on that, right? So in communication, there's basically 3 things you can do. You can agree with, you can disagree with, or you can just be with. And so what I try to do is I just try to be with people, So like on the last spaces, if Jillian and I disagree on Bitcoin being a CIA operation, I can disagree, which means that I think I'm right. I can agree, which means that I think I'm right. Both of those statements mean I'm right. Or I can just be with it. I can be like, yeah, I hear what you're saying, but that's not really where I'm coming from, I can just be with that thought. I don't have to have an opinion on it, you know? And I can argue. I can say, well, I don't, that's never going to happen. This is what I said on the show. That's never going to happen. And then I can offer up a contrasting opinion. But I'm not really at that moment saying, you're an absolute garbage human because you think this. Let's have a debate about it and let's get to the end of it. And then at the end of it, I can be with the thought that you have this idea and you can be with the thought that I have this idea, and we'll be fine with it. But if I'm arguing for my point or arguing for someone else's point, I'm always just basically saying I'm right. And that's not what you want to do. So there's a fine line to walk between confidence and projecting that you're right about everything. And then, of course, there's a fine line to walk in terms of being cordial with people. And you'll find a lot of the most successful people that you deal with are not very cordial. They're like, that's stupid, They'll literally just tell you straight up, I don't have time for this. They're not going to mince words or, they're not going to tell you what they think you want to hear. They're more disagreeable. And men have this tendency to be more disagreeable as a general rule. So a disagreeable man is one who generally has a moral compass, has a value system, and is refusing to abandon it. And when you see people who just like everything all the time and everything's beautiful and it's always this and, oh my God, it's sunshine and lollipops, everything you do is perfect, they're just telling you they're not valuable humans.
It's actually very funny that you mentioned the situation you had with Jilly on Spaces, because if you remember, Jilly actually said all this, and I told you or asked you about your opinion on all this, and it was like, I just wanted to see how you handle that situation and how you're going to answer. Mm-hmm. And as you said, there's no need to come to an agreement there. Mm-hmm. That's why I was basically just adding, guys, future will tell, and we will see who's right. And this is basically what we can do right now. No one has like a little glass ball where he can see the future, and if you are so dumb to believe Bitcoin is going up, just kidding. But it's actually, What can we say about the crypto markets today, right? Because I think Thaler was buying again. We had good news. Everyone is like, I think crypto is the worst performing asset in 25, even Bitcoin, compared to, I think silver made a new all-time high, $60 or $70, which is pretty good. I see you checking. You got silver, I see. So it's crazy, man. And I think if you actually zoom out a little bit and you look at the 3-year increase of all these assets, you will see that Bitcoin still outperformed all of these assets. But like I said, nobody thought that 2025 would end the way it did. I think many people expected the Q4 rally. Now we are here, 2026 ahead. Only good news, like we've spoken a lot about Breakpoint, right? So many good things happened. Bitcoin, great news. Ethereum, we'll see. But overall, the future seems so bright, right? So I don't see any reason why people are upset right now.
Yeah, well, the thing that Jilly and I were basically disagreeing on was the valuations, the potential valuations for Ethereum versus Bitcoin, because Bitcoin has right now I'm looking at the chart, Bitcoin's showing a 1.759 trillion dollar market cap. Ethereum is showing a $359 billion market cap. So we're talking about a difference of call it 600%, right? So in order for Ethereum to flip Bitcoin, Ethereum would have to go up 600% and Bitcoin would have to do nothing right now. I don't see that happening anytime in the near future. ETH has been range bound for 5 years now. A lot of people don't realize this. Like even in the last rally, Ethereum didn't do much, so it's been range bound for 5 years, I believe, 4 or 5 years. I'd have to go back and look at the chart. And Bitcoin has hit another new all-time high this year at 125 or 6, whatever it was, mid 120s, call it. And, it's had basically a 30% pullback, which is normal when you have a run up that big. And with institutions coming on board, store value wise, Bitcoin is the store of value. Again, first mover advantage. Ethereum would have to do backflips upside down on a sunny Sunday, in the rain and, magically do some other incredible trick that no one's ever heard of to somehow flip Bitcoin as a store of value. Now, does it have more use cases? Absolutely. And can it create more applications? Absolutely. No doubt about it. That was its sole purpose. Ethereum only exists because Bitcoin devs refused to add smart contracts back in the day. So Vitalik was like, all right, well, we're just going to do it over here on Ethereum. So, I mean, in some way, shape, or form, the compute platform that is Ethereum has a first mover advantage with smart contracts. And it's theirs to lose. So if they continue to innovate, they should never be overtaken. But Solana's doing a really good job of catching up right now. So, anything can happen with the application wars. I don't think Bitcoin's competing with Ethereum. I don't think Bitcoin's competing with Solana. I think they're very different markets from a store value standpoint. I don't see banking, trying to store funds in an Ethereum ETF. I don't see that happening. But, high net worth individuals continue to acquire the tokens. People who've held since the beginning are starting to sell. So we've had a lot of sell pressure, of course. And then this year's been kind of wonky with the economy and the tariffs and all the rest of it. And the business cycle has been kind of delayed. If you follow Raoul Pal, he talks about this a lot. And his prediction is the business cycle kicks back up in January. I don't know if that's true or not. And I don't really care because I'm not investing to sell in January or in February or in March. And so for my money, like as long as Bitcoin stays in the 80s, I'm just going to keep buying a few Satoshis here and there and keep stacking sats. That's my whole plan. And of course, Solana as well. And the rest of it doesn't matter. And so we can agree to disagree. I can be with Jilly's opinion without having to force my opinion on her. And I'm sure she can do the same. So, at the end of the day, I'm not tied up in what she thinks and she's not tied up in what I think. We're just free to think what we want to think and we can agree to disagree on that particular outlook. So no big deal.
Yeah, absolutely. I love her conviction about it. I feel like she's one of the few, maybe it's my ex bubble, but I feel like there are a lot more believers in Solana. I mean, if you just look at the list, I think you quoted it yesterday, the list of what happened at Breakpoint, what companies partnered up with Solana. Solana is the coin that will be used in your everyday life. And when was the last time we had some breakthrough Ethereum news? Like, what was it? I don't even know. Like, probably the merge or whatever. Like, I don't know. I'm not sure where Ethereum is going to go. It's never going away, but I think it's like the probability of Solana flipping ETH is a lot higher than ETH flipping Bitcoin. So as we said, or as you said, everyone can have his own opinion on that, and we will see what happens. It's going to be interesting. 2026 is going to be interesting to see how adoption continues, to see if it goes even faster or not. And but before 2026, we have one more event coming up. Can you think of what I mean?
Oh yeah, of course. Yep, Seven Dawns is coming up. We went all the way through film and TV, through psychology into markets. Why not talk a little bit about the event? Yeah. Seven Dawns, yep, coming up starting the day after Christmas. So the 26th through the 1st, so 7 days of 7 mints, 7 artists, 7 pieces. And it's just basically meant to kind of refocus people on what's happening leading up to 2026. And if 2026 is your year to do something different and better, then now's the time to start thinking about that. And this artwork is basically being built in celebration of that. What it takes, what it looks like, making a decision, going through the dark times of trials and tribulations, trying to figure it out, sticking with it all the way through until, you get the result that you're looking for. You and I were talking off mic and we had some feedback from one another. And it's like, hey, it doesn't have to be pretty all the time. It can literally be me telling you, hey, you suck at this, or you telling me, hey, you suck at that. But at the end of the day, it's about serving the mission that's greater than our ego. And, in this world where relationships are throwaway, it's easy to forget that. So having a face-to-face relationship or a physical relationship with someone makes it more high value. And a high value relationship is going to have friction. There's not a single person in your life that you have a high value relationship with that you won't have friction with. You're going to argue with your girlfriend. You're going to get in fights with your brother and your sister. You're going to have disagreements with your parents. Why? Because they are fucking high value relationships. That is the measure of a high value relationship, and can it survive that? I'm not saying you should seek conflict, but when it arises, you shouldn't shrink from it, right? You shouldn't harbor ill will and then blow up at the last minute. And so, all of this stuff that you have to go through, the trials and tribulations, the hard conversations, the changing of the body, the changing of the diet, the changing of the mindset, all of these different types of things are absolutely necessary, and they're hard, and it requires a lot of energy and effort, way more energy and effort than most people ever even consider. And so artwork celebrating people doing that work only makes sense. Like, there's so much beauty in the work and so much purpose in the work when you actually break it down and understand what it's all about. So hopefully these pieces, cause people to think about what it is that they're creating and what they want to do. And they project the beauty and the forward thinking of this time of year from that last week of the year. And that, it's something that, who knows, maybe you put it on your wall as a canvas, maybe you put it on your phone or your computer as a screensaver. But the whole idea is that these pieces speak to you in those 7 acts of creation. From identifying the target that you want to make real all the way through to the work of making it real.
Digital frames, guys, digital frames. That's the way to go. I'll make that big again. I'll show you once I hang them up, and I'll have all the 7 Dawns pieces in a loop on my wall, and you'll love it. Yeah, looking forward to the pieces, of course. Can't even say to which one the most. Obviously, we have some very great artists inside the series, and Anna, Daria, Maria, all have already delivered so great work, and new faces, right? Like, you are a big fan of Luna as well, and I am. Like, I just saw a piece she created today, the first male piece actually, and did she deliver the piece already?
I haven't seen it just yet. So I'll have to go back through and see. As soon as we, this is Monday morning for me. Actually, it's lunchtime on Monday for me. So I haven't had a chance to go through everything this morning. I was spending some time with my wife, but I'll definitely go through as soon as we get off the call, all of the submissions that I have so far, because obviously I have to put all this stuff together and get all the mints prepared, which always takes quite a bit of time. And the commitment to that is one that I want to fulfill early so that I can spend time with, with her over the holidays without having to be tied to a computer. And, I want to set up all the mints and get all the links out, and, people who buy will buy, and people who don't, so be it. Doesn't really matter to me either way. I just want to make sure that everything is ready to rock. So I'm going to spend probably half the afternoon just getting all that sifted and sorted, and then probably tonight setting up mints, and then you'll see me pop into the group chat so that I can, follow up with anyone who hasn't submitted yet, or at least get a finalization on that. But every one of those pieces has to be touched, duplicated. All of the data has to be processed and turned into JSON files. And then, of course, all the mints have to be set up. So it's a lot of work. So I want to do as much of that as possible. And I'll have all of the submissions that I have and a list of everything that's complete, basically by this afternoon. So that's kind of what I'm looking at timeline-wise for the rest of the day.
Yeah, what people often don't see is when you create the pieces and duplicate them, you always, have to find a good spot for the numbers, right? The numbers that are inscribed, and even like a good font, right? Like, you don't always use the same font. So that's pretty, that's art itself. So going to be interesting to see how this goes. And of course, the signature. Do we have a signature this time? Yeah, we have, right?
Yeah, I've requested signatures from, of course, all the artists to go on the 21st piece. And, this is one of those things where I don't want to ever break that tradition. And I also want to, it's kind of fun, right? Like, I want to honor the artists by having them sign that piece, because so many of them are unknown at this point, or only, I should say, only known in certain circles or only known on X. So having them sign something, I think, is a fun way of just letting them know how much we honor and respect them. And then, of course, that piece becomes one of the most sought after ones. Of course, STC's been getting them all. But yeah, it's a fun thing to do. So sign piece on the 21st, of course, and all mints set up preferably before Christmas Day, hopefully, so I can just kind of chill, and then we can pop in on a Friday and have the spaces, and then, basically pop off with a little bit of a fresh mint Friday with Daria.
Absolutely. Looking forward to all that. Final question for you. What are your Christmas plans?
Dude, I haven't even really made any. I'm looking at the tree right now. There's a couple presents under the tree, and none of them are from me. So I've got to get some work done on the presents thing, or I'm going to get crucified come Christmas morning. So yeah, we have a traditional meal that we always do. It'll just be me and my wife. We'll do a gift exchange. We've got a dinner to go to on Christmas Eve, and so we'll just spend time together, spend time with friends, and basically just take some downtime and enjoy it. The other thing too that, we were talking about off mic, another thing that we'll be focused heavily on, and this is kind of the inspiration behind Seven Dawns, is taking this time of the year to really focus on what we want to make real in 2026. Obviously, 2025 was a huge setback for me personally, and of course that impacted her. So I need to make some bigger moves in 2025. I need to close some bigger deals and, get access to some bigger funds by doing so. So that's one of the things on my list of to-dos. And we'll probably be looking at doing some more real estate deals. And of course, that might be open up to, the community if anybody wants to invest with us. And it also might be opened up to the real world community here in Anthem, because there's ways to set up companies and ownership structures using tokens and crypto. So me exploring all those ideas, maybe even starting up a little blockchain school or something like that. But yeah, a lot on the go, and certainly much more to come for Goodfellas in terms of tech and production. So yeah, no shortage of things to get done.
Yeah, actually pretty interesting, because for some reason I like the state I had in mind when it came to crypto projects is Wyoming. For some reason, many crypto tokens have their company registered in Wyoming. For some reason, maybe there is a reason, maybe not. But yeah, interesting stuff. Looking forward to hear and see a lot more about all that. And for now, we focus on Seven Dawns. It's going to be a great event. I hope you have a great Christmas time. Christmas is 25th for you, right?
It is, yeah.
It is. So it's going to be Thursday. I hope you receive some gifts. Maybe a digital frame. That would be great. I hope you get a digital frame. Everyone should have one.
Well, yeah. Ever since you mentioned a digital frame on the last show, I've been looking for digital frames. So yeah, I kind of want one myself. Absolutely.
All right. Yeah. I mean, it's pretty cool. So looking forward to all that. Looking forward to Spaces. I actually have a family meeting on Friday, so I'll have to rush to get on time on Spaces. And yeah, we will have a mint party, Daria's pieces dropping, and going forward from there, we will have many beautiful pieces dropping. And I hope you guys will join us on that little journey, on that little event. Looking forward to come together with everyone in the evenings during the mints and, trade pieces. Everyone should get their favorite numbers. And yeah, your final words before we jump into Christmas.
I think you summed it up pretty well, my friend. I obviously send you and your fiance and your family all the best for a fantastic Christmas, and I'm sure we'll be chatting back and forth between now and then. But all my best to you and the family, and all the best for a Merry Christmas, my friend.
Yep. Likewise, same to you, man, and to everyone listening right now. Have a great Christmas, and we'll see you guys on Friday. Bye bye.
Take care, guys.